Welcome back to the Sports by Schmucks podcast. I think it's episode 15 now, I think. Something like that. But it's a first because it's the first podcast without Sean. So we've got Kieran by himself this time because he hasn't got a lot of talk time on this. So I figured let's give Kieran an opportunity to have a session by himself. So
yep, and like I said, I'll be taking over for Sean this week, who's in Florida. He decided he wanted to go and see how awful the new Bucks jerseys look in person, I guess. So
and I guess how awesome the Blue Jays rotation is going to be, right?
Yeah, true enough. With Urban saying, "Oh wait."
Oh yeah. Oh, tough. Anyways, since we have you here, let's talk Champions League.
Yeah, I do love me some footy, so we can definitely talk that.
I mean, I know how much you love those boots that are just socks and shoes all wrapped up in one.
That's just silly, Brett.
You loved them. You had 10 pair on order.
You know what? I actually saw a post today that Mohamedou Sakho, who is a center back for Liverpool in France, is actually going to start wearing the Adidas version of those. I think they're called the Magistas or something like that, where they've got the whole goes up like right over the ankle. And anyway,
yeah,
I digress.
So someone's actually gonna be wearing them.
Yeah, they're actually serious about putting those into use and what have you. So we'll see how that works out. I'm kind of curious, to be honest with you, I'm kind of curious just to try them out, just to see how they fit and how they feel and stuff like that. But I think in terms of, I don't know, foot injuries are a huge problem in today's game, and I think the modern boot design has a lot to do with that. But that's a podcast for another day, I guess.
I don't know. We're talking about footy. I don't know if I can say that because I don't follow it as closely as you, but I'm going to do it anyways. We might as well talk about it because it's. I found it a very interesting design, as the design aspect of it. For
sure, and I think the biggest thing is that you look at the modern football boot, and they're now being designed thinner and thinner and lighter in order to, I guess, enhance mobility. And they're being made from leather, obviously still, but you can also get synthetic boots and stuff like that. But you see like the prevalence of foot injuries has gone up astronomically in probably the last 10 years or so, and I would argue that it has a lot to do with the modern boot design being a lot less protective than previous iterations. And I mean, sure, with that you've got increased mobility and the players like it, but it comes at a cost as well.
Yeah, you sacrifice some quality because you want to make the boot as light as possible, gain speed.
Definitely,
right?
And I mean, a lot of the boot manufacturers will still offer different lines in terms of their ultra lightweight series, which I stay as far away from as I can, and some of their more traditional boot styles, which are what I kind of prefer myself to wear. But again, it really depends on the player. When you've got your typical winger who wants to get up and down the side of the pitch as fast as possible, then oftentimes he's going to look for whatever gives him the most advantage. But as we've seen, probably, like as I mentioned, within the last 10 years, that can probably come at a pretty big price in terms of increased risk of injury. So
yeah, it's like me personally, I prefer when I play basketball to wear high tops.
Sure.
Because I don't want anything below the ankle, because with all the movement you do in basketball, you're more of a danger of rolling your ankle if you're wearing low cut shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah, but fashion rules all, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I actually saw a game the other day where a player was wearing a different colored boot on each foot. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Was it an all-star game?
It wasn't. No, it was a regular game. So
because you see that in all-star games a lot, but not so much.
Yeah, it was quite daring of him.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. All right, so Champions League, go.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess give a quick roundup of what's been going on lately.
Yeah, so past 2 days we saw the first match, or the first legs of the first matches being concluded. So with the second leg and a lot of the ties, and they kind of went the way I had anticipated in our previous podcast. Bayern Munich and Arsenal tied 1-1 in Munich. Good performance by Arsenal, but again, not enough to overcome the deficit they had in the first leg. So Bayern Munich advanced there. PSG beat Bayer Leverkusen 2-1. They had won 4-0 in the first match, so that one was essentially a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Barcelona beat Man City 2-1. A few things to say about that game. I thought Man City played very well. They definitely took the game to Barca. I think Barca also were unlucky in terms of they had a goal called back for offside that was clearly onside, and they also had a clear-cut penalty denied both in the first half. Having said that, City were lucky not to be down 2-0 within the first half an hour, and they created quite a few chances, but they just weren't able to capitalize, and eventually Barcelona scored the crucial goal to make it 1-0 in the leg and ended up going on. Although the refereeing was horrible in that game, I have to say. But it's besides the point.
Well, I guess it's beside the point, but as much as we don't like to talk about officiating,
it's interesting too because I guess it's not besides the point. It's interesting because Pellegrini was very critical of the refs in the first leg, saying that they didn't ref an impartial game.
Okay. And
then you've got an offside goal called back for Barcelona and a clear-cut penalty denied for Barcelona, both within the first 30 minutes. So that was kind of interesting that, he talks about them being impartial, or not being impartial, rather, in the first leg, and then they get really, really lucky with two, refereeing decisions in the first half. Generally speaking, though, I think the quality of refereeing in that game was just not very good at all. Referee missed a lot of fouls. He ended up sending off Pablo Zabaleta for a second yellow for dissent after, again, another kind of controversial call. I looked up the referee, and he also had he actually was sent home from World Cup 2010 for having a very poor officiating display against, I think it was in a Nigeria game. I can't remember specifically which, but it was in the group stage, and he ended up getting sent home. So, yeah, interesting.
Do you think he wouldn't, if he got sent home from like a World Cup, he wouldn't be working a game as, in the Champions League?
You would think that. He actually got reinstated. I was reading this yesterday. He actually got reinstated sometime after that, and then ended up refereeing the semifinals of Euro 2012. Supposedly had a good game. I actually don't really remember his refereeing performance so much.
But I guess that's a good thing if you're a referee. Yes, you don't remember anything, right?
No, exactly. And then, sure enough, you see him back here, refereeing a Champions League game. So, it's not, to be honest with you, Brett, it's not, out of the realm of possibilities with UEFA. They've had some, they stick by their refs in some aspect, which is, both, good and bad. So, yeah.
So those are the two that have been set so far?
Yeah, and then there's the three, and then there's the last game. Sorry. The last game was Atletico Madrid and AC Milan. So Atletico won the first leg 1-0 in Milan. So it was a close game. I thought the tie would be a lot closer, but Atletico ended up pulling out a 4-1 win at home. Okay. Yeah, for sure. They played really well. Diego Costa scored 2 goals, and he is just excellent. So games like this should certainly, hopefully, get people talking about him because he's a really, really good talent, and we'll be interested to see if he plays a big role for Spain at the World Cup. Yeah.
So those are the four, I guess, the 4 teams that have moved on.
Yeah. So we've got Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, and Barcelona that have all moved on.
So we're waiting the second half of those games that are going to be coming up next week, right?
Which are next week, yeah. And then again, a few of those ties have already been wrapped up for the most part. I mean, Real Madrid won 6-1 in their first leg.
Oh, yeah, that's done.
Yeah, in Germany too. So they've got 6 away goals there.
Can they just wave a white flag and say, don't want any more? Or do they actually have to play?
Yeah, they actually have to play the game. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Schalke and Real potentially field some more inexperienced teams in order to get them some game time and what have you, especially when it's a foregone conclusion like this. But remains to be seen. Borussia Dortmund also won 4-2 in Russia against Zenit St. Petersburg. So again, 4 away goals. I don't expect them to surrender that lead.
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin, Olympiacos beat Manchester United 2-0. You know how I feel about that game based on our, BBM conversation while that game was going on.
I have a Galaxy 4. You're on the Note, right? Are you still on the Note?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still on the Note. Yeah.
So yeah, we don't even use Blackberries. We use BBM.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, no. Olympiacos won 2-0. United have got a really big game ahead of them. Like, they've really got to win this game. They have to progress, especially against Olympiacos, who I would argue are probably one of the weaker teams left in the competition. Although you could say the same about United too this year.
Yeah.
But they've got to turn around a 2-goal deficit at home, which is tricky because if they concede an away goal, especially because they didn't get any away goals, it's going to make their job a lot tougher. So, if they just concede 1 goal, they've now got to score 4 as opposed to 3. So. Yeah. And then finally, Galatasaray and Chelsea tied 1-1 in Turkey in the first leg. Close contest. I thought Chelsea were certainly the better team, especially in the first half. Probably deserved to get a few more goals than the one that they did. I thought tactically, Roberto Mancini started out a little iffy. He made a tactical substitution midway through the first half, and it seemed to shore his team up a little bit. But Chelsea were pretty rampant within the first 25 minutes, and they definitely passed up a few opportunities. But they're at home, and again, tricky draw for them. But I think they'll come out the better team.
All right, so you as much as you don't like to say it, you've got Olympiacos and Chelsea going on, as opposed to the other two teams that you said are pretty much clear through already.
As much as I hate to admit it, I think Olympiacos will win the tie. I think Chelsea will win their tie as well. And again, Dortmund and Madrid, I think, are shoo-ins at this point for the next round.
So the next round is going to be another draw again, right?
Yep. I can't remember specifically when the next draw is, but basically the teams will get put back in a hat and they'll be redrawn for the next round. So
you already mentioned that Olympiacos is one of the lower quality teams in the remaining.
Yep.
So if they advance, alongside them, what would teams like the top teams? What teams would they want to draw other than Olympiacos?
Other than Olympiacos, it's really tough to separate the some of the weaker teams. I would argue that at this point, Barcelona, Bayern Munich are probably and Borussia Dortmund are probably the sort of the elite teams in the competition still. Atletico Madrid, I think, and Real Madrid as well. Atletico Madrid, I think, are probably maybe one of the weaker draws. Again, still a great team. As I mentioned last time, I think any of the teams at this stage of the competition are going to be good. PSG have been doing very well domestically. They're not traditionally a Champions League powerhouse, but that's come to prominence now with a lot of the investment that they've had on their part. So I'll be interested to see how far they can go, especially with the likes of Cavani and Ibrahimovic. They've got a good setup there. But I think you still got to look at Bayern Munich and Barcelona as the elite teams left in the competition.
Okay, so you said that. So without knowing the draw, so because these things are hard to predict based on the randomness of it,
quote unquote randomness.
Yeah. What would be the ideal, I guess, Final Four that you would like to see as a fan?
As a neutral, I would say I'd like to see what PSG can do in against the real elite teams of Europe, to see if they can prove themselves against a team like a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich. I think Bayern Munich, you've got to put them in there. They're the best team in Europe, in my opinion. Real Madrid as well have been playing quite well domestically. Barcelona have been a little iffy domestically. They've but you can't really rule them out. I would say from a neutral point of view though, Bayern, PSG, Real Madrid, and probably Borussia Dortmund. I really like the style of football they play. They're entertaining to watch. And and it would be interesting to see potentially a rematch of last year's Champions League final between them and Bayern Munich if it comes down to it.
Okay, that's some insightful stuff that we don't get a lot of that of soccer or footy, as you like to say, because I don't think I have the credit enough to say it when it comes to this stuff.
No, it's okay, right? You definitely.
Okay, cool. I'll footy.
I'll allow it.
Holla. So we're gonna go back. We're gonna go to North America now. We'll call it soccer because we're in North America, and it says soccer in their league's name. The MLS just started, but without their regular officials. They have locked out the pro. I believe it's the pro referee organization has been locked out of the starting of the first weekend of MLS games. Mm-hmm. We kind of saw something like this. I think it was last year.
Yeah,
time flies. Last year with the NFL officials.
Refs.
So what do you see? I mean, you already talked about how the refereeing can affect one side. In I think it was the Barca game you brought up, mm-hmm. Barca Man City game. So what can you see happening with the MLS lockout of their officials?
It's tough to say. I mean, obviously you don't want a situation like the Barca Man City game, or to take the football example, that Seattle Green Bay game last year, where the refereeing really influences the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the only MLS game I've watched so far this year was the Vancouver Whitecaps and New York Red Bulls game, and I thought the refereeing was okay. Again, as you rightly mentioned, Brett, I mean, when the refereeing is a talking point of the game, that's when it becomes problematic. Yeah, for sure. So I mean, as I mentioned, hopefully it doesn't become a big talking point. Similar to the situation with the NFL refs last year, I think if it does, that certainly will spark the MLS into sitting down and really hammering out a deal to get the refs back on the field. But the refs, the replacement refs are kind of a hodgepodge of FIFA referees. We might see some CSA refs in some of the Canadian games. So I mean, they're credible referees. It's not high school referees or what have you, as we saw with the NFL refs last year.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, it remains to be seen. But hopefully, it doesn't become a talking point, and hopefully, regardless of what happens, you hate to see these kind of labor strikes. So hopefully, they can get that resolved.
And you make a good point when you say that it's actually qualified referees refereeing this, because if you get in a situation where like you said, high school referees in the NFL, they're just completely overwhelmed by being on that stage.
I mean,
these guys aren't going to be as overwhelmed, because I think it was Alan Kelly is a FIFA he's refereed international matches for FIFA, mm-hmm. and they have former MLS referees as well. And one of them actually, I'm on an article now, said that the referee who you mentioned, who refereed the Vancouver New York game, he was a former MLS referee of the year. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you mentioned, it's not like they're just picking, say, me and you off the street, be like, hey, you guys are refereeing an MLS game, have fun.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Brett. And as we saw, as you mentioned with the NFL strike last year, I mean, those refs were completely lost control of the game and weren't able to really effectively do their jobs. And like I said, when that becomes a talking point of the game and it starts to influence how the game's played out, then that becomes problematic. I will, as an aside though, mention that if they were to pull me off the street and referee those games, not only would I be very available, but I think I'd do a bang up job.
Oh yeah, I'm not doubting I'd say I doubt me a lot more than I doubt you. I didn't mean to slight you in that way. I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just having around.
No, you'd be a fine referee as long as you got me seats. But yeah, I think that's going to be a problem for the referee organization, because if they don't have a problem in the game, like you mentioned, like we saw Green Bay, Seattle, like you mentioned, mm-hmm. Kieran earlier, they're not going to say, well, you need us back. Mm-hmm. If these guys are doing a decent enough job, the MLS could just say, look, we're fine without you guys right now. So they can hold off, and probably is going to hurt the PRO in the long run, I think.
No, that's a good point. That definitely could be an outcome. So,
speaking of outcomes, let's predict some for TFC. I know I'm just kind of springing you on this right now. They have their first game this weekend.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, they're in Seattle.
Yep.
against the Sounders.
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah, Clint Dempsey and the Sounders.
Yes. So TFC was busy this offseason. They brought in Julio Cesar most recently from the Brazil international, I believe, the keeper. And then also they brought in Jermaine Defoe and Michael Bradley to much fanfare prior to that. As you're probably sick of the TSN commercials, right?
It's a bloody big deal.
Yeah, it's a bloody big deal. So is this all? I know Tim Lewicki, who used to work in Los Angeles as part, and he was involved with the Galaxy.
Yeah, and he was instrumental in bringing Beckham to the Galaxy too. So exactly. I mean, he's shown that they're not playing around, and I think it's a really good show of intent from them. It's certainly got the fans riled up and excited for the season. I know I am. I know a lot of my friends who are TFC fans are excited as well. So I'm certainly intrigued to see how the season plays out. With that, however, I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to perform and to put a good quality performances on the pitch itself.
David Clarkson. Excuse me. Sorry.
Sorry, was something in your throat there, Brett?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. So, like I said, there's definitely going to be a lot of pressure on them. So it's going to be interesting to see, if Ryan Nelson and the coaching staff are going to be able to, channel the investment that they've made in these players onto performances on the field. I certainly think that they've got the talent to do so now. I mean, it's obvious that they've got some high quality players on there now, and I mean even the Brazilian Gilberto that they signed as well he's a pretty interesting player as well. So I'm certainly looking for big things from TFC, and I think everybody else is as well. So hopefully they'll be able to make a playoff run and get some good results on the pitch. I think key to that too is going to be maintaining the squad depth as well, and obviously avoiding injuries and such as well. So we'll see.
So you mentioned playoffs. TFC, as far as I know, and I hear a lot of it, they haven't made the playoffs yet.
That is true.
And they've seen. Did Montreal make it already?
They did, and so has Vancouver.
So has Vancouver. Yeah. Yes. So so is this, if TFC at this point, after bringing in these big names, if they don't make any kind of noise in the MLS, what does that do for the franchise?
Well, I mean, it's certainly going to come under scrutiny. I think the onus now, previous to the season, I was personally under the belief that the franchise was not very well managed. I would say. I mean, they showed glimpses here and there, getting players like Torsten Frings and Danny Kuvermans, which ultimately really didn't work out, too great. But I don't know. I wasn't really convinced by the direction that the franchise was headed in. So I think now they've obviously got a lot more direction. I think they've shown their hand, saying that we're serious about making this franchise work. I think the onus now is really going to be shifting to the coaching staff and getting them to put a good quality product on the field. And I think it's really going to be a test of strength for Ryan Nelson's coaching ability to be able to deliver on that. I mean, he's a fairly inexperienced coach. I mean, he played for a long time. He's a great player at Blackburn Rovers, Queen's Park Rangers, among Tottenham Hotspur, among other clubs. So I think it's, like I said, I think the onus is really going to be on the coaching staff to get some good results.
So one word answer: do they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't know enough about MLS. I almost said MLSE. MLS to judge properly, but the way they have me as someone who's, I will admit, a casual soccer fan, excited to watch TFC this year, which I think is what they want us to do, is bring not only to give the diehard fans like you hope for the season, but bringing that casual fan, like, hey, we're bringing these good guys, and you should put some.
I completely agree with you, and especially after the dismal performances in the last two seasons. I mean, it's going to be, like I said, it's central for them as a franchise to make these kind of moves in order to really get the interest back in back in the minds of the fans. So yeah.
I remember when they first debuted, it was impossible to find a ticket to a TFC game. You couldn't buy them off scalpers.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And speaking from experience, I mean, last year, after the performance that they had 2 seasons ago, last year they reduced ticket prices to their initial level that they were when the franchise first started. And I was happy when I first heard that, prior to the season. I'm like, oh great, I'm going to go to a couple TFC games and stuff like that. But then you quickly realize after halfway through the season that tickets might be more affordable, but realistically, I would rather pay a good price to see a good quality performance as opposed to paying maybe less.
There's a reason they dropped the price, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. For what you're trying to get at. Yeah.
I went to a match later on in the season, one of their final home games, and I mean, you could hear a pin drop in the stadium. I mean, there was not a lot of people in the stands. So.
And when they first started, the atmosphere in that place was ridiculous.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, even still, I mean, when you go, I went to the home opener last year too, and I mean, you still get those matches where you get that electric atmosphere that we all like to experience when we go to sporting events, but it obviously doesn't happen on a consistent basis. And I think, like I said, hopefully we'll be able to see that this year.
So it's turned into the Blue Jays. They get a good crowd for home opener, good, decent support when the teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox come in. But everything else is kind of you never know what you're going to get.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, nobody wants to come and see the Astros play or anything like that.
Hey, I saw the Astros last year, and I think they lost to the Astros. The game that I went.
I saw them play Seattle last year, and I'm fairly certain they lost to Seattle as well. So. And King Felix wasn't even pitching, so. Okay,
I didn't know which Seattle team you were talking about for a second, because at least Astros we know that's baseball.
Yeah.
But you said TFC is going to make the playoffs in the MLS, so let's go to another playoff race that's boiling down right now. We got about 15 to 18 games, depending on the team, left in the NHL season.
Mm-hmm.
Final month, so it's time to start thinking about playoffs. And they have their new playoff system because of their 4 divisions now, instead of the 6 divisions they had last year. With the top 3 in each division guaranteeing themselves a spot in the playoffs, and then the 2 wildcard teams consisting of the next 2 teams, the highest amount point total either way. Sounds confusing, but it kind of is, because some actual professional writers in big hockey markets don't fully understand how the playoffs work.
Yeah, and you get interesting situations like we've got right now in the wildcard in the West, where both wildcard teams are from the Central Division. So
exactly.
I mean, you could have 5 teams from the same division progressing and only 3 from another one.
Yeah, and then whichever team finishes first in the conference, so right now it would be St. Louis, they play the lowest wildcard seed. So that means they'd play Dallas right now. And Minnesota would cross over to the Pacific Division playoffs and play the Anaheim Ducks.
Interesting.
Yes. So it doesn't matter which division the wildcard teams are from. The best team in the conference will play the worst wildcard team.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I found out recently too. I kind of assumed that was going to happen, but until then, like for the most part, the only thing we really had to worry about was the Atlantic Division being the problem, because they were going to have 2 teams. For the longest time, they had 2 teams in the wildcard spot, but Pittsburgh was running away with first in the conference, so it didn't really clue in that way because it looked like both. Anyways. That was a long time ago. Pittsburgh is still on top on the East, but Boston is a point behind them. Boston, of course, leads the Atlantic, followed by Toronto in 2nd, Montreal in 3rd, Tampa in 4th. So if the season ended today, we would have a Boston-Tampa Bay first-round series.
Wouldn't it be Boston? Oh, no, you're right. Tampa.
Boston-Tampa.
Yep.
And then
Pittsburgh and Philly.
Pittsburgh and Philly, yes. And then the Rangers would play Columbus, which would be pretty cool because it would be Rick Nash against his former team.
Mm-hmm.
A former team he was captain of, by the way. And a Toronto-Montreal first-round series.
Interesting.
In the Eastern Conference. Now, I'm trying to cut the least bias out of that, but that would be probably the best series of the first round.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be looking forward to that.
And then in the West, we mentioned St. Louis would play Dallas, Colorado would match up with Chicago, Anaheim would play Anaheim would play Minnesota, and then it'd be an all California series between San Jose and Los Angeles. So, and Los Angeles has won 8 straight at this point, and they'll probably make it 9 as they play tonight. This is Thursday night against the Maple Leafs.
Yep.
Hopefully that's a reverse jinx right there.
Jonathan Bernier going back to LA.
Exactly. And then nobody from that Toronto trade is still in LA. So it's not like it's a reunion for any Toronto players. But anyways, do you have any, with the way that the NHL works now, there's it's so hard to catch up in standings with, so many 3-point games with overtime and shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see playing out? Just throwing it out there. Do you see any teams that are currently out of the playoff spot making a run, or do you see it just kind of staying where it is? I know it's kind of a wide open question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've got this gut feeling that despite Detroit not being in playoff, contention they're in playoff contention, but not in a playoff spot as it stands right now. I can't see them not making the playoffs. Just wouldn't be the playoffs without Detroit,
They haven't missed the playoffs, I should say, since 1990.
Right, and I don't think they're going to start. I think they'll put up a good run. They've got an experienced head coach. They've got some, obviously experienced players with lots of.
Well, that's if Datsuk and Zetterberg make a comeback, because they're on the shelf right now.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the only hurdle I'd say for Detroit would be if they can come back with enough time to make a difference. Because let's face it, I don't believe in Tampa in that 4th spot right now. I think if Detroit gets healthy, they can catch Tampa.
Yeah. How do you feel about Columbus? Right?
I like Columbus.
Really?
I do. They have ingredients that you need, especially now after Sochi. They've been playing well since Sochi. I mean, they won 2 straight. They've won 6 of their last 10, but have points in 7 of those games. They lost in a shootout or an overtime once.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just they have. Do you want to say it?
What, Bobrovsky?
Yeah. Do you want to yell it? Or
you're off the case, Bobrovsky.
But Bobrovsky has been on the case ever since coming back from Sochi. He's been playing really well.
Yeah.
And
he's just good.
And you know what? That 3rd spot in the Metropolitan Division, Metropolitan, as you said it before, it's wide open because there's not you have 4 teams that could realistically make that spot.
Oh yeah, I mean you look at New York, who's in 2nd at 74 points.
Yeah, even up to 2nd.
So going all the way to Washington, who's got 70 points. I mean, you have 4 points between 5 teams.
Yeah.
Right? New York, Columbus, Philly, New York, and Washington. Or sorry, New Jersey and Washington.
And as it sits right now, the wild cards are split between the 2 divisions. So right now there's 4 playoff spots up for grabs. Well, 3 because Pittsburgh is so far ahead that no one's going to catch them.
No.
But I like Columbus. I just have this feeling about Columbus. I know it's not statistically, they're only plus 11 in goal differential. It's just I have this feeling with the way Columbus has been playing since Bobrovsky came back and Nathan Horton's been on the team that they're going to be able to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Boone Jenner just set the franchise record for most game-winning goals as a rookie. And Boone Jenner is fantastic. I think he's 20 years old right now.
Yeah, something like that.
I love me some Boone Jenner, mainly just because his name is Boone Jenner.
Boone.
I mean, that's a hockey name right there, as much as you like to say one. So, I see Columbus. I think based on how this division is playing out, I think they're going to be able to get a playoff spot.
Okay.
I think. I agree with you. If Detroit can get some help from injuries, and Leguan has looked pretty good ever since being acquired at the deadline, I think it's going to be a Boston, Toronto, Montreal, Detroit top 4 in the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Toronto, Montreal, I think they're going to kind of flip-flop for home ice in that series. I don't see, unless Price is gone for a long time, I don't see Montreal falling anywhere.
Yeah, what's his timeline? I heard he was like a couple weeks, last week.
At first it was 2 games,
mm-hmm.
and then it came out that he was being put on the IR, and then they still don't have an official timeline for it.
Yeah,
that's the biggest concern for Montreal.
I was going to say, that's not good news if you're a Habs fan, because it seems like a lot of uncertainty there.
And everyone, and as I've watched as I watch Leaf games, and everyone says it, that they get outshot all the time, and they don't play good defense, and they don't. And Bernier and Reimer, more so Bernier lately, because Carlisle's been running with Bernier.
Mm-hmm.
They've been the reason why they have this playoff spot right now.
Oh, sure.
I know they always get outshot. We saw it happen in San Jose when it's bad, but the way that shots they've been giving up is just they've been to the outside, and Bernier's been able to make saves, and it's just been the good shots you want to give up. As weird as they say, they're to the outside. I know they don't have possession or anything. They shouldn't be anything like this, but they were the same team last year, and they took Boston to 7, and they should have won Game 7.
Yeah, well. That's
So
as still stings a little.
Yeah, as famed internet hockey writer Down Goes Brown says.
Yeah.
He said in a piece about bubble teams today that it would take something historically disastrous for the Leafs to miss the playoffs. But Leafs are known for historically disastrous things to happen to them. So
yeah, true enough.
I don't see the Leafs missing the playoffs at this point. As much as I don't want that to sound homerish at all. I just don't see how they wouldn't be in the top three in that division.
I agree with you. I think they've. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I mean, before the season, I thought they'd be one of the wild card teams, but I also didn't know how good Bernier was going to be. I thought Bernier would take the reins from Reimer, but Bernier has been able to win them games.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Reimer has too, but Bernier has been able to do it more.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
So yeah, that's what I have from the Atlantic, and then Metropolitan. Pittsburgh's running away with first, and then I think New York's going to hang in there because of Henrik Lundqvist. Sorry, the Rangers, the Islanders. No talk about the Islanders.
Well, I don't know. They could still make a comeback.
Don't even. I feel sorry for Islanders fans after Tavares got hurt.
I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Garth Snow just stands up and is like, okay, I'll go in net.
Yeah.
I'm taking this into my own hands.
Isn't he the same age as Nabokov?
Who's that? Snow?
Evgeny? No, they're not the same age.
Oh, I don't know.
Because Nabokov is really old.
He is very old. Yeah.
I'm just messing around. I know he's not the same age.
Right. The Rangers, though, I agree with you. They've especially now that they've got St. Louis. I mean, they've got a good team, man.
I mean, they'll miss Callahan in the dressing room probably, but
sure.
I watched the first game because they played the Leafs right after St. Louis got added, and I know he hasn't, as of this recording, I believe he hasn't scored yet with the Rangers, but it's only a matter of time with him and Brad Richards because they had showed some great chemistry, some great flashes of what they used to be able to do in Tampa back when when they won the Cup in 2004.
Yep.
So I got Rangers making it mainly because of that, and Henrik Lundqvist was still one of the best goaltenders in the world.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And then I'm going Columbus, and I think I'm going to have. I think Philly's been playing really well.
Yeah, Philly has
a disastrous start. So I think Philly will.
I'm definitely glad I hung in with Giroux on my fantasy hockey team.
Yeah, I think Philly's going to hang on, but I don't think they're going to get a wild. I think they'll get a wild card spot. I don't think Tampa's going to be going to be as good anymore without St. Louis and Stamkos. I know they hung in there without Stamkos, but. I think that's a different story.
I tend to agree with you there.
Okay. So do you want to just jump to the West?
Sure, yeah.
I think really St. Louis. St. Louis. We were talking about Marty. St. Louis. And it looks like Colorado and Chicago are locks to finish in the top 3 of the Central.
Yeah, I mean Minnesota's like 13 points back. So. And
same thing. I would say the same thing with Anaheim, San Jose, and with the way LA's been playing lately. I think they're going to lock up the top 3. In the Pacific.
Yep, no, that seems a fair assumption.
So, really, it comes down to wild card teams, and if the Jets weren't so far back, if they had one more win, as opposed, if they have one more win on their record right now, I'd
71,
say
yep.
Yeah, if they had 71 at this point with same situation,
yep.
I would say they have a good chance of making it. But there was 2 games at hand. And being 5 points back, I know they have 2 games coming up. I think near the end of the season against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Winnipeg playing so well lately after they hired Paul Maurice, I don't think they'll be able to. I think they did too much damage before to catch back up, which is a shame because they've been playing really well despite their loss to Vancouver.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think, to be honest with you, in my opinion, I don't think much is going to change in terms of I don't think anything's going to change in terms of the playoff teams that are there.
So you think Minnesota, Dallas are going to hang on?
I think so. I think Dallas is really going to sort of galvanize around the whole Rich Peverly thing. So I think that they'll be able to put some wins together. I mean they've got a good team just anyway.
I mean you look at Phoenix. I'm just looking at Phoenix's schedule coming up. Oh, sorry, that's recently.
What's your point? Dallas has got a game in hand too, right? So I mean they win that game, and I mean they're 3 points up on Phoenix.
For sure.
Yeah, and in Minnesota they've got a again with a game in hand on Phoenix, they've got a fairly sizable point lead. So I mean you're basically you've got to get make up 2 wins there as well. So I don't see much changing except for you might see something like if Anaheim or San Jose go on a tear or a skid, you might see those 2 flip-flop or something like that. I mean, San Jose's been playing really well, whereas Anaheim hasn't been doing so great within the last 10 games, so you might see something flip there. But I think in terms of the teams involved, everything's going to stay pretty much as it is.
I know it sounds pretty obvious, but it's probably going to either be Dallas or Phoenix in that last spot. And I agree with you that personally, I think they're going to, we saw what happened the next night when they went to St. Louis and beat a very good St. Louis team on the road the night after the Peverly incident. Yeah. Which, by the way, fantastic work by the doctors to keep that man alive. Yeah, they were on the spot and very quick work. So good work to them. Mm-hmm. That's all I really want to talk about it because that's, other than the fact a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a great hockey player saying that he wanted to get back on the ice after he regained consciousness. I think that's just stupid.
You can't take a chance on something like that.
No, I know, but that's what he said. He said he wanted to be back out there, but I think that's just a stupid thing to do.
It's I mean, obviously you want to get back out and help your team and stuff like that, and it's selfless of him to want to do that, but at the same time, I mean, you've got to look out for the player's long-term health, and that's obviously the number one priority. So
no, for sure. But that being said, I'm just looking at the Coyote schedules. They got 2 games against the Bruins, 2 games against the Panthers. They got the Rangers, Penguins, Devils, Wild, Jets, Oilers, Kings, Blue Jackets, Predators, Sharks, and Stars. So that Stars game, the last game of the season, could be very, very big.
Yeah, and other than Edmonton, Nashville, and Florida, there aren't too many shoe wins for them.
Exactly, yeah. Especially, I mean, they do have a couple division games, but they're not going to catch anyone in the division. But they might be able to say, oh, we're familiar with these guys, so they might be able to more prone to a win there. But I don't think they can beat the Penguins. I don't think they're going to. They'd have to split between the 2 Bruins games. They'd have to win at least one of them. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that. So I think it's going to be. I tried to talk myself into Phoenix with the schedule, but I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So we're just going with what they have, pretty much, right?
I think so.
All right, so that's going to be a pretty interesting first round when you have St. Louis against Dallas, who we saw what just happened with. I don't think Dallas will be able to put it up with the series. A Colorado-Chicago series would be pretty interesting.
That'll be interesting, yeah, for sure.
Colorado is kind of. If Colorado makes the playoff, when Colorado makes the playoffs, do you think Patrick Roy is a shoe-in for the? What is it? The Jack
Adams?
Jack Adams. Sorry, I almost said Jack Norris. Jack Adams? I think he's a shoo-in for it, if the way Colorado's been playing.
Yeah, he'll definitely be in contention for sure.
Okay. I don't think there's anyone else to give it to, based on especially how Colorado finished last year. So then we'd see Anaheim versus Minnesota, which would be, you never know with Minnesota. And then San Jose, Los Angeles would be a fantastic series too. Mm-hmm. Not as good as the potential Montreal-Toronto first-round series. And as people have said, think about the montage CBC is going to put on before those Montreal-Toronto games. They have so much history to draw from. That would be fantastic.
Especially with it being CBC's sort of last hurrah this year, so it'll be interesting.
Well, no, they've got Hockey Night in Canada for 4 more years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Hockey Night in Canada will stay on CBC for 4 years with this contract. After that, it's up in the air as to what happens. But if it does well and TV is still people watching TV on TV and not just on tablets and stuff,
Right.
I don't see why Rogers would take it off of CBC. It gets the most spread across it, and you can just promote all your shit on top of it too. So
Sure.
anyways, that kind of exhausts the hockey talk. We're going to start to wrap up here with our high fives and face palms.
Just before we start that,
yes.
I really think that we should come up with like a really cool sound effect. So as we kind of go into the high five and face palms, we should have some sort of pretty awesome sound effect to lead us into that.
All right, get on that, Kieran. That's your job.
I'll try and find something. But continue,
okay.
Brett, please.
Okay. Since I'm going to be very negative this week, I'm going to start off
You negative
with
Nancy.
with my two face palms, my two-handed face palm, if you will. The first, it leaked earlier in the week that during a Cleveland Browns press conference when they introduced some of their free agent signings like Dante Whitner, I guess they walked out of their war room, if you will, and there's a clear picture of who they want to go after in free agency. One of which is boxed, and it's Bills linebacker Arthur Moats, who, as people who follow the podcast and follow the NFL know, the new head coach for the Browns was the former Bills defensive coordinator. So that makes sense there. But you think Cleveland could afford, like a curtain or something to block that off, or say, hey, you can't shoot from this angle because
or how about we move the board away from the door?
Exactly. Something as easy as that. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, come on, Cleveland. I know. Then again, it's Cleveland. I know. I just kind of cut myself off, but it's Cleveland. What else are you going to expect? So facepalm to Cleveland's. Let's go room planning, feng shui, if you will. Facepalm to Cleveland's feng shui of their room.
Not using your brain.
There you go. I forgot about that sketch. Second, it broke this morning that there's an arena in Boise, Idaho, home of the Idaho Steelheads.
Many games I've been to.
Yeah. They're affiliated with the Dallas Stars. Anyways, at the CenturyLink Arena, some fans found out by pouring different beers into a cup that a $7 beer contains the same amount as a $4 beer. They just tricked them with the size and the shape of the cup. So the organizations come out and said, "Oh, we made it. We ordered these cups. That's this is not true at all." But there's video of them actually pouring a $7 beer into a $4 beer cup and it fitting fine.
Yeah, so, I'd be pretty upset too.
So we kind of talked about it before. I don't know if it's a high five for the fans figuring this out or a facepalm for the arena trying to do this, intentionally or unintentionally. But I'm going with facepalm for the CenturyLink Arena for robbing fans of money, because if you're giving them $3 more for a large beer, you want more beer.
Yeah, there should be at least 67% more beer in that.
Yeah,
in that cup.
Exactly. That's
just math right there.
That is exactly just math. So I'm going to pass the metaphorical mic over to you for your high fives and face palms.
Thanks. So my high five this week is going to the teams of the NHL for reaching out to the Dallas Stars organization with their support, via Twitter or social media, what have you, in response to the Rich Peverley incident. It was, it's a good show of faith from the other teams, and regardless of division or conference rivalries or anything like that, it's nice to see that teams can still unite under a common cause, especially when you've got a player's health that's sort of the center of concern. So well on you to the other teams.
Yeah, you like to see that the community of the NHL coming together.
For sure, yeah, it's good to see, and like I said, I mean, it's nice to see them put their rivalries and what have you aside, when there's a kind of a moment of genuine concern. So
for sure,
hats off to the other NHL teams. My facepalm this week is going to go to Leafs captain Dion Phaneuf.
Oh no.
Many a times we have seen Dion, line up opponents for bone-jarring hits.
Double Dion.
Dion, as Pierre Maguire likes to put it. So in the Leafs versus Sharks game. He was, lining up for one of his signature monsters on Patrick Marleau. Marleau sidestepped the hit, and Dion actually just completely flattened James Van Riemsdyk. It was a good hit. It
was a great hit.
JVR didn't see it coming. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, teach him to skate with his head down when Dion's on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dion doesn't care.
And actually,
friend or foe, I'm still going to lay you out. But anyway, obviously it wasn't intentional. He ended up hitting his own player. JVR ended up having to sit a bit of the game out, but fortunately he came back later in the game. No harm done. But at least not on the ice anyway. I'm sure his pride was probably hurt a little bit. I'm sure Dion probably threw him a few Red Bulls after the game. So anyway, that's my face palm for this week is going to Dion for his nasty bone jarring hit on his own teammate.
I think my favorite part of that hit is actually the fact that I know you said he sidestepped him, but you know what? Marleau didn't make that much of a move. Yeah. I think Canuck just whiffed on it, and Van Riemsdyk just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
JVR probably just pissed him off the other day. He probably said something about Misha Cuthbert or something like that, and Dion's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you back," and he saw this perfect opportunity. He probably could have taken a run right at Marleau and then saw JVR in the corner of his eye, and he was like, "I'm gonna get you."
It's the perfect crime. No one will ever think I did this.
No one will suspect me.
So on that's a good fail to leave on. It's a funny thing, especially because JVR is actually he got back up to as much probably with Leaf fans with bated breath waiting to see if he'd come back.
Okay.
And you know what, he came back in a meaningless game at that point because the Sharks were just dominating the Leafs on the scoreboard.
Yep.
and actually just in all facets of that game. That does it for us today. Kieran has a protected Twitter account, so I'm not going to plug it.
That's true. I actually didn't realize until we were chatting. Earlier this week when you wanted to retweet me and then couldn't retweet me because my account's protected and what have you. But so you can view my profile on Twitter. You won't be able to see my tweets, but you can view it.
Yeah, so that's all you get.
That's true. There is a reason behind that, but I won't divulge that.
No, that'll be an off-the-record conversation for after this. And then, so I'm at SmithBR10. We are at Sport by Schmucks because of character limits.
I thought it was like somebody else had the name.
No, I wanted Sports by Schmucks, but it was too long.
We could have Sports by Schmuck.
I could, or Sports X Schmuck. Like length by width. Yeah. You used to do in math class. But I don't want to change it now. I mean, I already have the one picture made, and then I have to go back. And anyways.
No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. So you could be listening to this on YouTube because that's where it's going to be. So like the video, comment, join in a discussion. We'd like to hear feedback. And then, subscribe to our page too. Don't forget sportsbyschmucks.blogspot.ca is where you can read all of our posts, which is hopefully Kieran's going to do a World Cup preview before the World Cup.
Yep, certainly will.
Excellent. I like to hear that confidence. I'm not going to plug anybody else's work because they're not here today. I just uploaded today the third video of the Dallas Stars franchise I'm doing. So if you want to give that a check out, it's probably just below in the actual YouTube page. So give that a look. So as always, thank you for listening. Join in the conversation on Twitter, on YouTube by commenting, anything like that.
Hashtag Sports by Schmucks.
Hashtag Sports by Schmucks. You could, anything like that. So just, we'd like to hear back from you and to hear maybe something that we should discuss. That'd be nice. Fan requested.
Yeah, that would be good, actually. I'd love to hear some comments about what we should talk about.
Exactly. So, speaking for Kieran, I'll say thank you for listening. Is that good, Kieran?
No, absolutely. And speaking for Brett, also thank you for listening.
All right. So, yes. Just keep it safe out there, kids.